I'm recording now. All right. Okay. So, Nikita, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what originally motivated you to pursue a future in STEM?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Nikita. I'm a junior in Washington State. I'm super passionate about all things related to space, and I've been so from a young age. I think the moment that I really first got into STEM was when I was around maybe 3 or 4 years old. We used to live in India, my family and I, and we lived in an apartment. And apartments in India, they have an accessible roof. And my dad and I, during the nights, we used to climb up to the roof and watch the stars. And that combined with science documentaries we were watching at home really got me into science. And in elementary school, I participated in this competition called Destination Imagination, and it's a STEM competition. So that was the first time that I was really having to use all different aspects of STEM into creating one finished product. And I kind of fell in love with that style of like solving problems.
That's so cool, especially like stargazing on the roof. That's really incredible, and it's so sweet of your dad.
Yeah, definitely.
What do okay, so you've mentioned a little bit about what you're interested in, but what do you think is the most exciting or promising area of STEM research or development right now? And can you tell me a little bit about it?
Ooh, there is so much going on in STEM at all times. It's kind of hard to choose, but I think that one really prominent thing that's happening kind of right now is like artificial intelligence with like chatbots like ChatGPT and like AI art generators. Artificial intelligence is being incorporated into a lot of different fields, and I think that's super exciting because it enables us to do so much more, like more efficiently, quicker, but it also raises like safety and ethical concerns. And I think it's a really interesting topic to delve into. And I hope that in the future, there's like lessons and classes dedicated to learning about this because it's so interesting and so complex.
Yeah, I totally agree. So as we celebrate Women's History Month, can you share a woman who has inspired you in history, and tell us a little bit about her?
There are so many female role models in my life currently, but of course, having role models like from the past is also really important. And I think that for me, one of my female role models is Henrietta Swan Leavitt. She was an astronomer, and she was actually the first person to discover that there are more galaxies in the universe than just the Milky Way. But generally in history, Edwin Hubble gets the credit just because women at that time were not allowed to go into the laboratories and conduct science. So she physically wasn't able to do the research to come to that conclusion, but Hubble was able to. But I think that it's so groundbreaking that she was able to do that despite all those challenges and obstacles in her way. And I think it's really inspiring to, never give up. And I hope that in the future, more people recognize her or at least recognize her name.
Yeah, like I will say I had never heard of her before you brought her up, and I think it's really, really cool how like even now we're still like giving female scientists the recognition that they deserve both from the past and today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously, the representation of women in STEM has been changing. How do you think that representation of women in STEM fields has changed over the past few decades, and what factors have contributed to those changes?
There's definitely been more women getting into STEM recently. It's still, I think it's still not 50-50 like it should be, but there's definitely been developments. And I think it's because there's been more of a focus and a realization on like maybe the government's part or the school's part on like emphasizing women in STEM. I think a huge problem in our society is like unconsciously there are these stereotypes, like for example, in stores, like the quote unquote pink aisle, that just discourage girls from going into STEM starting at very young ages. But right now, there are female role models who are working towards like getting girls interested in STEM at a very young age. And because of that acknowledgement, I think that more and more girls are getting into STEM in recent years. And I really hope that this development continues until we have an equal number of men and women in STEM fields. And I hope that I'm able to hopefully help younger girls also get into STEM because I think that's really important. I think mentors are really important.
Definitely. Totally agree.
Yeah.
So while great strides have been made in gender equity in STEM, discrimination has not yet completely vanished. Can you share a time in which you felt especially impressed by an advancement in gender equity? This could be at any level, whether, for example, like in a school club or a policy on a national level.
Ooh, that is challenging. Um, I think that I'm pretty privileged to go to school in an area where STEM classes are made up of equally boys and girls. So I don't really ever have to struggle much with being like the only girl in a class full of boys or anything like that. So I think that, yeah, I'm pretty privileged in that way. But one thing that I can think of is I'm part of the rocketry club at my school. And I think that one super cool thing is that my team is entirely made up of girls. And while that's a small thing, I still think that it's really cool that we're able to work together and build the rocket. And I think that's a show of female power and girls in STEM. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Um, so what do you think that we can learn from the experiences of women in STEM throughout history, and how can we apply those lessons to the work that we do today?
Everybody has different experiences. Everybody brings different knowledge and skills to the table based on their past experiences, the opportunities that they've had. And it's really just a lose-lose situation to exclude women from the table because you're not letting them get involved and you're also not benefiting from their ideas. Like women might be able to think of things that maybe men just kind of overlook or they're not really focused on that, and just bringing in that diversity is super important. It can help us advance our technology and our science way faster and more efficiently. So I think that it's just really important to continue to keep that in mind and try to make sure that everybody has equal opportunity to get involved.
Definitely. All right. So, how has your involvement with the National Girls Collaborative Project and the YIB impacted your perspective on gender equity in STEM? And what are some of the most valuable lessons that you learned during your time with this organization?
I think that being a part of YAB not only focuses on girls in STEM, but also the power of kind of youth voice. The STEM equality fight has been going on for many years, but oftentimes we don't see like high school students or middle school students get involved, and yet we're the ones who are being affected most because we're the ones who are being kind of driven away from STEM subjects from this very early age. And so we're able to provide insight on that and provide insight on how things could be changed for younger girls at this time. And so I think that that's a really important lesson that YAB has taught me is the power of youth voice and the power of my voice, so that I'm able to kind of speak up on these problems and be able to make change myself instead of trying to wait for it to happen or like, depend on others who, I don't know, maybe may not be able to create that change, kind of taking matters into my own hands.
That's so inspirational, and I'm really glad that you've been able to find that out about yourself. What is a problem or issue in STEM that you feel like isn't talked about enough? This can be really anything that you've seen, but like, is there something that you just really feel like you wish people were talking about more?
Do you mean that to be like an issue in STEM as in like in a certain field or like about girls' involvement in STEM or diversity in STEM?
Really anything like if like there's anything like in terms of like involvement in STEM or like any form of like discrimination that's really prevalent in one field, really anything that you feel like you like on STEM that you really want to talk about that you feel like isn't super mainstream or popular.
Yeah, I don't think I'm too sure about that.
Yeah, okay, no, that's no problem at all. Like it's
Yeah, sorry about that.
no, it's no problem. Okay, then going on to our last question, which is if you were talking to a group of young women who were interested in pursuing a career in STEM, but were unsure where to start or unaware of how to overcome potential obstacles, what advice would you give to them?
I think the most important thing is to just keep trying, like never give up. There's always going to be obstacles. It's never going to be an easy road but despite the discrimination, despite the obstacles, you can still make it. And just also keep in mind that STEM is really big. It encompasses so many things, but that doesn't mean that you need to get discouraged by that necessarily. It just means that there are so many different opportunities that you could take advantage of to better yourself, find your interests, find your passions. So yeah, I think the main message is don't give up, just keep trying and remember at the end you can do this.
All right, that is, yeah, that's really, really cool. Thank you so much. I'm going to
Yeah,
stop
thank you.
recording now.